Yeah, like 7 years ago. I didn't mean to say 6, 7.
Nice. You're Oni on one.
Yeah, I am Oni on one.
Yo, y'all got a cryo chamber.
You're like, let's go.
What's up, Falcons fans, and welcome back to the Friday Five. I'm your host, Will McFadden, joined as always by Tori McElhaney. Tori, how we doing today?
Doing well. I can't complain. You know, things have chilled out a little bit more now that the draft is behind us, but still a lot going on. We have rookie minicamp in a couple weeks, so things are gearing back up again. It's nice that players are in the building, though.
It is nice. I saw him out there on the practice field earlier, and I had to do a double take. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're back.
We're back.
Right, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have 5 awesome things on today's show. We've got 2 exclusive conversations with 2 of our newest Falcons. We've got Avieon Terrell and Zachariah Branch, interviews with both at the end of today's episode. And then, Tori, you and I are going to each share kind of 3 lingering questions that we have about the Falcons now that the draft is over, now that I expect the bulk of free agency is over, and it's just kind of a good chance to take stock of the team with a little bit of the offseason left to go.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I've seen comments all throughout the draft weekend and in the days since. Fans are feeling pretty good about the Atlanta Falcons draft. I think the overwhelming majority of those who have commented on our videos, who have just responded to tweets, a B+. You know, where does that sit for you? How are you feeling about that grade?
I feel pretty good about that. I think it's very indicative of the fan reaction. I think I said on one of our podcasts over draft weekend that this is probably the most positive I feel like this fan base has been in a very, very long time, especially after day 2 when you get Zachariah Branch and Avieon Terrell. Like, I felt like that was I was talking to Jackie, who's one of our social media managers, admin. She was like, I think the excitement of the fan base only rivaled when Matt Ryan was announced as president of football. Because the fan reaction to that was also so much better than kind of anything we had seen up to that point. So for me, a B+ feels fair. I see a lot of like national media doing more of like a C, C-, kind of not being as high on the Falcons as I feel like locally the reaction is. And I think that's kind of understandable too from a national perspective, not having a first round draft pick and not really you have more of like a meat and potatoes day 3 where you're filling out depth and kind of getting some of these guys who are versatile and you can do a bunch of different things with on defense. They're not the big names that were kind of coming off the board early on day 3. So I think that kind of, when it comes to a national perspective, I think that's why you see the Falcons being on the lower end or like middle end.
Draft grades are always weird.
They are. I don't know, kind of like, because it's funny because you'll see somebody write this like beautiful like 3 or 4 paragraphs about all the things that the Falcons did and they'll give them a C-. And it's like, wait a minute. Like,
they'll call Avieon Terrell like the steal of the draft.
Yeah. And then C-. And I'm like
C+.
Okay. All right. But I do think that, context is important. And I would rather, I think, go with the way the fan base is feeling than probably national perspective, because the fan base is the one that's the most plugged into what the Falcons need and kind of what the roster construction ultimately looks like.
I just feel like I need a grading rubric,
There
like
isn't one. It's subjective.
What is the scale? Is it weighted? Are we counting the earlier, so all of that. But I agree. After doing kind of the grades roundup for AtlantaFalcons.com, I was struck by, after day 2, a lot of these sites were like Falcons A+, like they're nailing it. And I agree. It was kind of that day 3, which maybe this is just simply a byproduct of local fans. You're going to dig in on the guys that your team gets. And I think that all of the players the Falcons selected on day 3 are players who, right off the top, many people didn't know a ton about. But when you dig into them as players, they're kind of fun.
Yeah, you feel excited about them. You feel excited about kind of their upside, what their ceiling could be, and also just like inserting them into what's already here, especially those defensive guys, seeing what Jeff Ulbrich can develop these guys into and what role he has for them. Like, I'm pretty excited to see what that looks like.
Absolutely. So I think it's kind of that the closer you are to this, the more that you come away appreciating this draft.
Yeah.
So that's letting the national media members off the hook a little bit. Okay. boost that grade up.
Right.
Boost that grade up. It was really good.
Yeah.
And it was in part really good because of the guy they got right up at the top, which is a great way to, I think, move into our questions about where the Falcons stand right now. You mentioned Jeff Holbrook, how he's going to use some of his new pieces. I got a couple questions in the secondary. What about you?
Yeah, I think one of my main questions is, and it's the one that's top of mind because Avieon Terrell is top of mind right now. He was the first pick for Atlanta in the 2026 draft, and he's the one that's making the headlines right now. But my question now that he's here officially, he's partnering with his brother in some capacity in the secondary, but that's where the question ultimately stems from. What is the plan for Avieon Terrell? When you get him in here, is he splitting reps between nickel and outside corner? Because he's a guy who can do both of those things. He talked about it in his press conference. He talked about kind of with us and also just going back and looking at what he was doing with Clemson. Like early on, they had him doing a little bit more nickel than they did later on in his career at Clemson. But I think that he has that capability to kind of be this versatile piece moving in and out within the secondary. But I think that's where my question lies because as Jeff Ulbrich has kind of stated before, using like Jalon Walker as the case study, he really didn't want to overwhelm someone who has this huge versatility early on in their career and kind of giving them the runway to master one thing. So I wonder what if that still applies to guys in the secondary. Mainly, does that same philosophy, that same thought apply to Avieon Terrell, someone who is versatile and can play nickel and outside corner? The good news for that is if you do want to specialize him at one, you have Mike Hughes on this roster. And I think that's kind of where I'm like, I feel a little bit better about if you see the long-term vision of Avieon Terrell being his older brother's running mate outside. Something we've talked about since A.J. Terrell got here in 2020 of like there's been a revolving door at the opposite corner spot, finding someone who he can truly partner with. Now you have the opportunity to partner with your brother. Like, one, great story, but also two, I would rather kind of put feet to the fire a little bit for Avieon in year one. If that's the expectation, if you're wanting him to be that guy to be a true outside corner partnering with his brother for years to come, go ahead and kind of put in a trial by fire. And I think that's kind of where I stand on the answer to this. But of course, it's not me making that decision. So it's why it's still very much an obvious question for me going into this rookie mini camp, the first time we talked to Jeff Ulbrich, going into training camp. Like, what's the plan for him?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I agree with a lot of what you just said. To me, if they want to have Avieon kind of stick it at one spot, it comes down to, like, I believe they envision Billy Bowman being part of the starting lineup, right? So if you're going to start Avieon in the slot at nickel, when Billy comes back, Billy, I think, is pretty much slot only.
Yeah.
Right? So then you get into a situation where it's like, all right, we've asked Avieon maybe to get started here in the nickel, and this is all assuming Billy is not able to work his way back, which that's TBD.
Yeah, we don't know what – I think a lot of this hinges on Billy Bowman's return to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even if, let's say, he's going to be delayed for any reason, it would make more sense. You've got Mike Hughes, who has that inside-outside versatility. You stick Avieon on the outside, say, learn this, even though I do think the secondary is maybe a little bit more maneuverable than playing kind of like pass rusher, then linebacker, then cover it, I think it's a little bit more one-to-one, even though it's not a pure one-to-one by any means. But you stick Avieon on the outside, you let Mike Hughes kind of fill in that nickel until Billy is able to come back if he's not starting there initially. And then even let's say Avieon is taking some lumps or what have you, you could kind of maybe naturally slide Mike Hughes back over there, say, all right, let's kind of figure some things out, give you a break. We've got a veteran. So I kind of like starting Avieon on the outside specifically, let him learn that in year one. And then if he needs to, transition to the inside at any point.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there because I think that having Mike Hughes on this roster allows for kind of this like ease in for Avieon Terrell, specifically on the outside, because you do have this backup plan and you have these three guys between Mike Hughes, Avieon Terrell, and Billy Bowman Jr. that have that ability to play nickel when you need it. And also, we're talking about this too. Like maybe they want to do more of a jumbo nickel look too, and you have some guys who can fill that role as well with some of these linebackers who have these histories of being these quick safety players. So that's an option too, like thinking about it in that way.
Yeah, so where do you think then they would use Kendal Daniels? Because I think he jumps right off the page as what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is a very interesting piece of the conversation because as we're going to get to later on in the show, I think that Jalon Walker is this linchpin. Whereas Kendal Daniels and what Jeff Ulbrich can do with him, I think his versatility lends itself to the idea of being this true hybrid safety linebacker in a way that we've seen Divine Deablo at times be that, but maybe you are opening the door for Divine Deablo to maybe have the green dot. So maybe he needs a bit more responsibility just in the front seven and aligning guys and getting guys where they need to be. So does that open up an opportunity for someone like a Kendal Daniels to establish himself as the guy that you're dropping into coverage, kind of somebody who plays more of that big nickel look?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being a former safety, like he's got the coverage chops. I think he moves extremely well for somebody his size. But I've been fascinated when I've watched him, honestly, by his ability to rush the passer as well. Like I think he's just as good going forward as he is going backwards. But there are plenty of times where you'll see him line up with his hand literally in the dirt and then be 15 yards off the ball in like a deep coverage look.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by Kendal Daniels. I really think that the Falcons are just building this very flexible second level of their defense. And that is going to be why it's kind of hard right now, I think, from where we sit to talk about the defense and what we expect it to be with much confidence because there's just so many chess pieces that you can move around, and I think they're really building something interesting.
Yeah, I think, too, like you've brought up a good point previously about the role of Harold Perkins, too, as an edge rusher and kind of what he was able to do in those. I know we're talking about Kendal Daniels right now, but Harold Perkins has even more so, I think, the ability to rush the passer, and you saw what he did in his first 2 years at LSU and kind of coming off of the edge at times and being very productive in doing so. I wrote about I was talking to some scouts and I was like, okay, when was the first time that someone like Harold Perkins like came on your radar? And they're like, the LSU Arkansas game, his true freshman year. He was actually sick. Like he had the flu. He threw up on his way to the team meeting before the game started. And it's this really funny story where Brian Kelly was kind of talking to him. It's like, oh, you need to embody like MJ's like 1997 flu game. Like, and Harold Perkins goes, who's MJ? And it's just like, it's a very funny story. I wrote about it in AtlantaFalcons.com. But in that game, he had like 4 sacks in that one game. And it was like what they were able to do with him, blitzing him, kind of having him line up off coming from the second level on the line of scrimmage. Like, so while we're talking about, while we're talking about Daniels, I also want to throw in Perkins into this thought as well. Is like, how does he fit into that too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the Falcons are going to have a lot of, I think, pass rush firepower, even if it may come from different places at different times.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to be fascinating, I think, to watch the front in particular. But again, my mind kind of keeps coming back to what is going to be at the heart of this defense and how are they going to evolve it, because I'm still not entirely sure that question has been answered. Yeah,
well, I think it's because, and it goes back to what I was saying before, it's like, what are you going to do with Jalon Walker? And we've alluded to this. We've talked about this. I've gone on radio. I've kind of talked about this too. But like he, to me, and he's the linchpin of all this. Once we know Jalon Walker's, the expectation for Jalon Walker, the role or roles for Jalon Walker, we'll have more of an understanding of, okay, how's someone like Daniels being worked in? How are they looking in terms of like what their nickel packages looks like? How are they going to kind of make up if they're doing more off-ball stuff with like maybe true linebacker, maybe some Mike stuff with Jalon Walker? How does that affect your edge rushers? Like there are so many ripple effects outside of the decision for what you do with Jalon Walker that completely changes, I think, the calculus of how I'm looking at this defense. And that's what's really fascinating. It's why I think going into training camp, going into this offseason, like what's the plan for Jalon Walker may be my number one question that I have for this defense. Obviously, honestly, maybe even the whole team, because I feel like I have a good understanding of what they're trying to do at quarterback. And, that'll be the constant questions like, who's the starting quarterback week 1? Who's the starting quarterback week 5? Like
it's become the new left guard.
Yeah, it's become the new left guard, and we're gonna talk about it over and over again until there's a decision that's made, and even probably after a decision has been made. So for me, the Jalon Walker of it all is like comparable to the offensive side of the ball of like, okay, what are you doing at quarterback? To me, it's like, what are you doing with Jalon Walker?
So you're the architect of this defense.
Mm-hmm.
What is your primary role for Jalon Walker, and then what is your kind of secondary change-up role for Jalon Walker?
I would love to see them go back to kind of what he did with Kirby. I think that having him moving and being this like fluid piece among the front seven, I think was very beneficial to Georgia's defense, because we've watched so much Georgia football. I think what Kirby was able to do and kind of having this fluidity of, okay, this down, he's rushing the passer. This one, he's back, he's dropping into coverage. Like, there are just some, like, now he's lined up over the center. Like,
he was just kind of like Michael Myers to me.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Like, he was just kind of always moving in like a slow, methodical, but then he was just like there.
Right, yeah.
And it was like, ah.
It's like, oh my God, yeah. But I think that that's kind of what you could potentially start leaning into more, especially as you're trying to figure out ways to kind of combat not having Caden Ellis on the roster anymore. Can Jalon Walker become that? And if not that, like, how does Jalon Walker become kind of like play in this Caden Ellis role, but do it in a way that fits Jalon Walker?
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing is we have been talking a lot about how the Falcons replace Caden Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
But Caden Ellis is, maybe with the exception of like Nick Bond or Zach Bond,
yeah,
like a one-of-one player.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. There's just not that many
mm-hmm.
who do what Caden Ellis does. But there are different ways that you can make a defense work.
Right.
So
yeah.
You don't have to. You can change your defense a little
mm-hmm.
bit. And I think that there is absolutely a way where Jalon Walker is kind of his version of whatever that dynamic, versatile player is from the heart of a defense. Mm-hmm. And maybe that is rotating a little bit with Divine at times, although I still think Divine is the player you want to move around shadowing your guys a little bit in coverage. I just kind of keep wondering if, as much as Jeff Ulbrich has been kind of saying, and if you go back and look at press conferences, things like he likes dominant traits. He likes guys who are able to do some things very clearly at a high level. Yeah. This defense is very versatile. It is very multiple.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at what they've got in Seattle
mm-hmm.
and what McDonald built in Baltimore as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I could see versions of that here.
Yeah.
With the guys that they've got. So again, I'm not saying that's where I expect it to go, but with the number of just new faces on this defense as they've built over the last couple of years, it's so much fun to think about.
Yeah.
But there are a ton of new faces now as we blink in free agency. There were way more people than we expected, another 6-man draft class. So position battles, Tori, that's always a place we like to go to when we're talking about training camp. Are there any early on that you kind of are circling as like, that's going to be a lot of fun when we get into July?
Yeah, I think that edge rusher is going to be an interesting one. I think that I'll do one for each side of the ball. So for defense, I think a lot of people probably expect me to go corner there, but edge rusher, to me, the amount of bodies that they brought in, kind of some of the things that we're talking about with Jalon Walker, and okay, if you move him kind of back to the second level, that opens up the door for somebody else. Who is that next somebody? Mm-hmm. You're coming off of a year where you broke a franchise record in sacks. How do you, I don't think you have to break it again, but like, how do you keep in lockstep with the success that you had? So edge rusher is one that I feel like you have a lot of different guys, a lot of different body types, a lot of different individuals at different points in their career. Some guys coming back from, injuries that they sustained maybe 2 years ago that maybe haven't had the resurgence that they wanted. Maybe some guys who have more of a special teams background that you maybe want more opportunities for in the rotation. So I think you have some unproven guys in recent years that I'm looking forward to seeing how they emerge. So that's one side. And then the other side, and this isn't really, to me, like a true battle or a competition, but wide receiver and how you're going to deploy Zachariah Branch. You know how you're going to deploy Drake London. Like, that's not up for debate. Like, that's not up for conversation. But in the grand scheme of, like, how does Jahan Dodson, Zachariah Branch, and Olamide Zaccheaus work within the scheme? So I don't know if that's like a position battle, but it's more of just kind of like a thought bubble. Right? Like,
that's all a podcast is, Tori.
Right,
it's just one ongoing thought bubble out loud.
Yeah, it's just me rambling into a mic for 40 minutes.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I had number 3 receiver, for lack of a better, because I do think, and it's notable that both of the position groups that you named have former first-round picks added this offseason and free agency kind of for their next home, looking to see if you can spark something. I think Jahan Dodson is going to get that first look at kind of your number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
Probably, like that Z receiver or what have you. But I would be a little surprised right now if Zachariah Branch is not out there to some degree in week 1. But yeah, again, whether that's Olamide or Zachariah, kind of like having that third, all right, we're in our offensive package where we're trying to push the ball down the field. Who is that? That's a good one to look at. Edge, I agree with you for kind of the same reason, just the different types of bodies. Corner, as we have talked about, like that may be one of the biggest, like the highest profile, I think, battles. And then just, how everything we've talked about with Jalon Walker and with the linebacker position and what they do there.
Yeah.
Returner, is Zachariah kind of like your leader in the clubhouse at this point?
I think right now, sitting here, yes. But I reserve the right to change that when I see some more guys who are even in. Because at this point in time, I don't even know who's in the competition, right? Like Zachariah Branch, I think is.
Maybe Jahan
Dodson, maybe. Like
maybe Olamide.
Like, are those 3 guys? Are we talking about, like, okay?
Didn't Mike Hughes has done some stuff? Yeah.
Especially like in camp, like he was doing some stuff this past year. So
what Kendal Daniels can do back there.
We're just throwing everybody out, Brandon Dorless, get out there.
Were there any other position groups that we left on the table?
So I think that, and this maybe like brings us into one of the final questions that I have, is like offensive line. You obviously like went and got a offensive tackle, which I think was a good decision in the 7th round. Onionwan. Yeah. Onion.
You're Onionwan.
Yeah, I am Onionwan. But I think, like, I liked that pickup in the 7th round. You can never have too many, tackles. You can never have too many linemen just in general. My question, though, is like, do you need a center? Like, do you need another interior lineman? Do you need a guy who can be backup for Ryan Nuzul? Because right now you feel good about, like, Ryan Nuzul at center. He obviously started a bunch of games for the Falcons in the last, like, 2 years, really. The reason why he got the start last year was because of what he did in relief to Drew Dahlman as his backup. So, like, I know that you feel like probably okay with that right now, but is there anyone right now on the roster that you feel like, okay, if Ryan Nuzul goes down, you have the answer within a game turnaround, within a moment's turnaround? Like, I don't know exactly that answer right now.
I don't either. Corey Levin was brought in here as a free agent, but he's kind of really the only option I think they've got as far as center specific. You've got a few guys interior depth-wise who have been here for a couple of years. Kyle Hinton comes to mind. But if they're going to add anything kind of at a high level between now and the start of training camp, I have to imagine it would be offensive line.
Yeah.
Like that to me is the one other position where you could really use not just a clear-cut depth piece, but somebody who could come in here and maybe add some starting juice in a competition during training camp.
I agree.
That's what I would like to see.
I think so too. I think if there was going to be, we're only allowing ourselves one move between now and the start of training camp, it's going and getting a center. Like
that would be a good topic.
Like, what if you only had one move?
One more move, like one more token.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
What are you spending that on?
Maybe that's a nice conversation. We'll put a pin in that, Will.
We'll ponder it.
Yeah.
We'll ponder it. All right, so my last question is a bit of a big picture one, and it is which position group has improved the most this offseason from where we ended the 2025 season. We've gone through free agency, through the draft. Which group do you think has taken the biggest step forward?
I think you and I both would say the same position group being wide receiver. I think that even last year, it's funny because I'm thinking back to this time last year and maybe even like before the draft, and you were very much like pushing like, go get a receiver. And I feel like at the time I was kind of like pushing back on that notion a little bit because I felt like what the Falcons had in terms of their wide receiver core going into 2025 was in such a good spot. You had Drake London,
really such a good spot.
Well, Darnell Mooney was coming off of near 1,000 yards. Like Ray McLeod was also coming off of one of his better years in his career.
I was never fully sold on Ray.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to be. It ended up like, but I thought he did some good things in his very first year.
He did.
I thought that what you had with those guys coming back again.
I'm just always pushing. You know me, Tori. I'm just always looking for every.
Always. And so I think that like I felt really good about the wide receiver core going into the year. But then, of course, we know how 2025 ended up working out. And then you get to the start of this season, you're really looking at this receiver room and you're like, you got Drake London and Casey Washington.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of it. And so the work that they did in free agency to bring in Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus, getting Zachariah Branch in the draft, like I think we both agree that that was probably some of the more fruitful moves that were made this offseason that we could pinpoint and be like, yeah, that's a group that from like the first day of the new league year to where we are now took the biggest step.
100%. Yep. I think, you could, even listing those names, like it's conceivable there's another addition in there at some point. Like you could always use more depth. But yeah, I feel pretty good about where the Falcons are, at least with their top 4-5 guys at this point, which is saying a little bit more than how I felt they ended the season.
Right. And who's to say that, we have rookie minicamp coming up. You have, tryout guys who will be around for the next little bit going into training camp. Like maybe there is a bubble guy that we're not talking about.
Somebody we don't even know about.
Right. That we're not talking about right now, that maybe we don't even have a name in mind yet, that we've been doing this for a while. You sometimes see some of those wide receivers or corners specifically because you want to carry so many guys into training camp in the preseason. Some guys really establish themselves and kind of work their way onto the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think they've also done some small little improvements, certainly in the secondary with the addition of Avieon Terrell. Like that's now a legitimate group.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at just the Atlanta secondary, I like every one of the starters that you would throw out there. And they've got a little bit of depth that they're building. So I like that. I think tight end, with the addition of Austin Hooper, took a little bit of a step forward. I thought they did I hated seeing Tyler Algier go, but I think bringing Brian Robinson in, at least you keep that kind of 1-2 factor there. And then same with Caleb McGarry's retirement. As much as I hate that, immediately the move to go get a veteran who has played in the Super Bowl, who has played in some massive games and was a former first-round pick, second-round pick.
Yes. Question mark.
Anyway, Jawan Taylor is a known veteran in the league who is a good player. So I think they have done a really good job of at least keeping the foundation in place.
Second round.
There you go. Well,
just so
newsflash. While also then making the improvements where they can, knowing that there were some financial limitations this offseason.
That's the thing is for as many moves as I think Ian Cunningham and his staff made, I don't think going into this offseason I was expecting the breadth of moves made because I didn't see where the cap was coming from.
Yeah.
So they've done a really good job in a very short amount of time of pinpointing some guys that can fill out the roster, fill out depth, but also kind of get some guys who have some starting experience who can really help you in terms of the competition at certain positions.
Yeah. This is shaping up to be one of the more, I think, interesting assemblies of Falcons players and coaches and just new things going on in the organization and in a minute. So we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about come training camp. But thank you guys so much again for joining us today. We'll be back next week, and we're going to do a little bit of a trip around the NFC South and just see how the Falcons' biggest rivals have changed over the offseason. So we will see how that's going to ultimately impact our predictions for everything in the division. But until then, guys, please enjoy these awesome conversations. First up, we got Avieon Terrell, And then we got Zachariah Branch. Both are extremely excited to be here in Atlanta, and we are excited to have them. So thank you for listening and enjoy. We are so excited to be sitting down now with Avieon Terrell, the Atlanta Falcons' newest cornerback, pick number 48. And I think it's a selection that a lot of Falcons fans are going to remember for a long time. But can you take us through what your reaction was just in the moment? Where were you? Like, first thoughts, all of that.
Yeah, I was on the couch and waiting for my name to get called. I knew it was getting a 48. I kept feeling Atlanta. I was feeling it, but once I seen the call and it said Atlanta Falcons, my heart dropped. Like, oh my God, ain't no way. Got the call, talked to them, tears of joy, talked to them, hung up, and went to go hug my brother.
It was so great, and just like the emotions of the moment. But it's really funny because you were just here in December because you were a part of, we did a whole video shoot with AJ because he was Walter Payton Man of the Year nomination, and you came in and you stood behind a video board to surprise AJ, and now you're here in the same space, 4 or 5 months later. What does it kind of mean to you now to kind of be in this building and you're like, okay, now I'm not coming in as a guest. Now I'm coming in as like, I have a place here.
Yeah, it means a lot. A dream come true. And yeah, like you said, I was just here in December doing that. And I would have never thought I'd be here in April. But like I said, I'm blessed. Thankful for the opportunity. Can't wait to come here and ball.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, during the draft process, did you ever have a moment where you were like, oh, maybe it could be Atlanta? Like, it's one of 32, right? Like, maybe this could happen? Or was this kind of a total, wow, like 4 picks out, 5 picks out, and now maybe it could happen?
Yeah, it was a wow, like, oh. Like,
okay.
Wow. But like I said, once we got to 45 and I seen Atlanta right there, I already knew. But it was definitely a wow moment, like, dang, this is crazy.
Well, if you're anything like me, So I do a ton of mock drafts all the time.
Okay.
And I was actively avoiding you in mock drafts because I was like, I don't want to put, like one of those things where you jinx something.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to put it out in the universe and get my hopes up and then it not happen.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder too if it's that's in the back of your mind too. It's like, okay, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. The mock drafts.
You were all over the place,
all
man.
Over the place. That's why I didn't know where I was going, but glad to be here though.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
So I want to go back in time a little bit, and I'm sure you've seen the clips. It was just a viral moment last night with you and AJ. But there were a lot of people who put going back to 2020 when AJ got drafted, and y'all are in the living room sitting on the couch, and you jump up when AJ gets the call and he's announced, and then cutting it to last night, and you see AJ being super excited for you in that moment. What does it mean to you to kind of have those mirroring experiences, literally 6 years apart? Have you even had time to conceptualize that?
Haven't even had time.
Right? Yeah.
Haven't even had time, but yeah, 7 years ago. I didn't mean to say 6, 7.
Nice. It was nice.
6, 7. But yeah, 6 was whatever years ago when he got. I seen that side his phone. Seen Atlanta Falcons, but I was proud of him at that time. Still proud of him, but the hometown. It always hit different when it's hometown. But seeing that call motivated me as a youngin. Because AJ is always somebody I looked up to. So I already knew I had big shoes to fill because he got drafted while I was still in high school. So I had a lot of expectations, and I feel like I lived up to him.
So you mentioned hometown. Growing up, were you a Falcons fan? And we know AJ was. What era was kind of your Falcons era? And Matt Ryan,
yeah.
Where does all that fit in?
About 2014, 2015. Yeah, that was my era. When I started liking the NFL team for real. Because my dad was a big 49er fan.
Okay.
He's a big fan. We was always watching 49ers, Falcons, and every time they played each other, we had a big house party. So I say I was 50-50 with both, but about 2014 till now, sure.
Do you remember, when you look back at kind of that time and your first kind of introduction into, because that was kind of when I started getting into the Falcons too. It was the Matt Ryan era. It was the Julio, and it was the Super Bowl run and Grady Jarrett and all that. What do you remember about like that time and kind of how the city, you're in your formative years at that time, how the city kind of came alive around you? What do you remember?
And it's crazy, I was so young at that time. It's like 2016, so I was
like 10?
10, 11, but at that age, I still remember the city was crazy.
Yeah.
The city was crazy, and that's something I want to bring back. That's something I want to do. Because what I seen at 10, 11, the Falcons doing all that, going to the playoffs, going to the Super Bowl, I want that again.
Did you have any conversations with Matt during this process at all, or have you spoken with him yet?
Today. Mm-hmm. This is my first time talking to him.
Yeah?
For sure.
What was that like?
It was good. He taller than what I thought. I didn't know he was that tall. Even though he played my brother, I never seen him that close, but
he is taller. He does kind of catch you off guard a little bit. I like walked up to him one time and I was like, "Oh, I'm like still looking up."
He's tall. But yeah, I didn't really talk to him a lot, but we talked today for sure.
So I was watching some different clips and stuff, and everything comes out during draft weekend, and it's like I've seen so many pictures of you from when you were younger and with Caden McDonald, and those pictures were floating around, of course the pictures of you and AJ, but then I also saw this moment where your teammate TJ Parker and his family were watching you get drafted, and they're just like the excitement that they were feeling. It really felt like, as all of this stuff was coming out last night, you have such a like loving football community, and a lot of guys who have kind of had similar experiences over the last like 24 hours as well. What does it kind of mean to you to go through all of this with people who you've known and loved and grown up with for so long?
Yeah, it feel good. The support is real. The support is real. I felt love last night. Like you said, TJ. That's all love. Him still, he done got drafted, but he still took his time to, him and his family to congratulate me. So I like TJ for that. And like I have a big support team. Everybody came to watch, and that's what kept a smile on my face. I was just seeing my love and seeing my circle support me.
Yeah.
How big of a role was AJ in your growth development from a young age? Obviously you've talked about kind of like following in his footsteps, looking up to him and wanting to be like him, but did you lean on him knowing that he was one of the best corners in college football, a future first-round draft pick? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, big. I've been leaning on AJ since I knew how to play football. And once I started understanding more when I was in high school and he was giving me game at a young age, I feel like that's what separated me. That's really it. Like, AJ just, I told him yesterday, bro, continue to be the role model you is, bro, because I'm still looking up to you. I don't care what team is. You're still my big brother, still looking up to you. So he's been doing very good at that.
I found this one quote, and it was from AJ, and it was back during, it was like when, I believe it was kind of when you had first gotten Clemson, or your first couple of years at Clemson, and he said that he feels like you have been ahead of him at every phase of football at every age. I thought that was a really cool quote, because that's, a big brother talking about his little brother. But how much of that goes to kind of being ahead of schedule or being at a different phase entirely per age? How much of that goes to seeing AJ do it and having kind of this like blueprint? Okay, if I do this, if I get to this point, I'm gonna succeed.
Yeah. I'll say at the age of 12, 13, that's when I start really understanding the game of football and really looking up to AJ for real.
Right.
Because I feel like when I was a kid, you just playing ball.
Oh, yeah.
But once you get close to high school, you get that chip on your shoulder. You want
time to lock in.
It's time to lock in. You want to be better than bro. So I always ask AJ, what you do? So I go do more. So I think he's correct about that. In every age group, I was ahead because it's because of him though. The jewels he gave me. So it's all because of him for sure.
Was there any piece of advice that anybody gave to you throughout this process as you're getting prepared for an NFL career that's just kind of stuck with you?
Yeah, do the common things in an uncommon way.
I like that. Yeah.
That's what stuck.
Who told you that?
Dabo Sweeney.
Always. He always has some bars.
Yeah, that stood out to me. Always do more. Always do more. Don't just go to practice. Do extra. So that's what been stand out to me since I was in high school. I always just do extra after practice.
You've known Dabo for quite a long time.
Yes, I was in 7th grade.
Yeah. How great of an impact has he had in kind of your development and just as both a person and a player?
Yeah, a huge impact. Very huge impact. Dabo always stayed on me. He didn't coach me different because I was AJ brother, and that's why I went to Clemson because he know the real. He coached real, and he made all of us closer to God. So I appreciate Dabo for sure.
When you got drafted last night, Dabo sent us some quotes just about you and his excitement for being drafted. And one of the things he said was kind of like just the way that you play. It comes with this like authentic nature of like just loving the game and being so focused on loving the game. But I also found this other quote. It was from your freshman year. It was Andrew Makuba.
Yeah,
Makuba. He was a safety at Clemson, and he said, even then, this was like only a couple months, I think, into your freshman year, he was like, I can see it in his eyes. He's a young kid that's hungry. And that was something that even came up in kind of some of the conversations that I was having with scouts here in the building. Is like, he's a young kid who's hungry. But it's like, it's so funny because we're now 3-4 years removed from that quote. How has that kind of, that youngness, that hunger in you, how have you embodied that and kind of taken that on as a persona in your career?
Yeah, I take that personal. I take that very personal because I'm not the biggest. So I got to attack the day with the right way. Attack the day with the right way. Always hungry on that field. Always hungry, like McCool said. I used to want to learn corner, nickel. Just put me anywhere. Yeah. Put me anywhere. I want to help the team out. So that's it.
That was something too that your position coach, Mike Reed. Yeah. He said too that you play longer than what you are. You play bigger than what you are. What are kind of some of the things that you feel like on the field showcase that within your skill set?
Yeah, my tackling.
Yeah.
Not scared to come and hit nobody. Not scared to hit nobody. And I feel like that's what stood out on my tape. Because you could call me this and that, but I'm still coming to get my job done.
Right.
And that's just the mindset. It's my chip on my shoulder. I've been having that chip on my shoulder since I was a kid. So I come with it.
Like it.
Was that something that you had to learn, that chip? Or, did you just find, hey, this is how I am, and I was kind of born with it?
AJ is the reason.
Yeah.
Because he used to try to bully me when I was a kid. So ever since that, I always wanted to tackle people.
There's something to that, I feel like. Little brother mentality.
Out there,
yeah, for sure.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So I want to kind of give, we know your parents, and they're probably sitting in the control room listening right now, but they've been around and they know, they've been at games and, seen AJ play and now seen you and gone to Clemson, watch you play. They've been at everything. They've been such supporters. Can you even encapsulate what it means to for your parents to see you reach this and kind of how proud they are of that?
Yeah, it means a lot to see them smile about this because they was the ones who took us to the camp. They're the ones who did all the extra stuff for me and AJ. So I was proud. I'm proud of them. They stayed down and they never changed. They always tell me the real. Yeah. I'm that type of person. Tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. So they always told me what I needed to hear, and it's good. They can't stress no more with me and him on the same team. I told before this, we was like, whew, y'all gonna have to be traveling, but
couldn't have worked out any better.
It's gonna be very easy accommodations.
They literally just go down the street, and it's all right, time to go watch the boys
go right
play.
Back home. That's crazy.
I know it's been kind of a whirlwind 12 hours or so for you. Throughout all of this, did you hear from anybody surprising or somebody that kind of stood out that you weren't expecting?
I gotta check my phone.
He's like, I still have thousands.
I gotta check my phone. I was my family from New York down here.
Yeah,
I was with them last night at the crib just chilling. But I gotta hit some people back.
I respect that.
Yeah.
No, the live in this moment. I love that answer. That's a great answer. All right, so what do you think you're going to feel when you're running out of that tunnel for the first time? Like, have you even...
Chills and excitement.
Yeah.
Chills and excitement. I can't wait to do it because, like I said, I've been watching AJ do it for 6 years, and I always tell myself I can't wait to do this. But I didn't know I was going to be doing it with him. So I can't wait. It's going to be, like I said, just chills and ready to go attack the field.
How much of this, like, also, I know we're doing, like, the pageantry of the draft, and it's super exciting, and everybody's, but how much of you're also just kind of like, get me on a football field? Like, how much of that are you even feeling today of like, get me to training camp? I want to get out there and play.
I wish we could start practice Monday. I'm ready to get on the field. I ain't put no pads on since November. Right, yeah. So I'm ready.
It's kind of like you're missing it a little bit, right?
Yeah, I feel like when you love the game that much, you just be wanting to go on the field. So I can't wait.
Oh, that's so great.
We can't wait to see you, man.
Yes,
like everybody's so excited to have you here in Atlanta. Avieon, welcome. Yes, it was great to sit down and chat with you, and we can't wait to watch you out there in training camp and this season.
Yes, thank you.
We are very excited to be joined now by wide receiver Zachariah Branch, the newest Atlanta Falcon. Zachariah, thank you for sitting down with us today in the studio.
Appreciate the opportunity. I'm very blessed to be here, so I'm excited.
You just got a tour of the facility. First impressions being here in Flowery Branch.
Oh, yeah, I feel familiar. Since I had that top 30 visit, I feel like I'm showing my fam around, like, this is here, this is there. Like, I'm already knowing a lot of stuff is at. But I love this visit when I came up here, and I'm very blessed for the opportunity that the Falcons are giving me, for sure.
How have you kind of connected with coaches, scouts? Because I know your pro day, there were a lot of Falcons guys that were there, obviously the top 30 visit. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how you've connected with them so far?
Oh, yes. So I talked to Coach Prince, the receiver coach, when I actually went to the pro day after the pro day, and I talked to Matt Ryan up there as well. It was my first time getting a chance to meet him. So that was pretty exciting just to pick his brain. I mean, he's a legend, future Hall of Famer. Yeah. So I just wanted to pick his brain, like, what are the things that you did to stay consistent in the league and things like that. Not even necessarily talking about the Falcons originally in the beginning, just trying to get some nuggets from him. Right. Like, he's a great player, and then just him ultimately talking about the organization, and how they would love me to keep me down the road, which is crazy how everything is, transpired now. And then, when I came up here on my visit, I loved all the coaches. I feel like they allowed me to be myself. But at the same time, when it comes down to business, like, you got to handle your business, and that's pretty much how I am. Like, I like to have fun and things like that, keep my personality. But when I'm on the field, like, I'm really about my business. So I got that vibe from everybody in the office and things like that. And I know a lot of players as well too. So.
Love it. It's funny you talk about the pro day and meeting Matt Ryan there. I saw the clip that I think everybody has seen, and it's Shock basically like introducing DJ Shockley, introducing you and Matt, and like talking, like holding on to you and being like, gotta get this guy. And it was so funny because I like quote tweeted that, and I was like, confirmed, DJ Shockley, the ultimate wingman. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of that moment in your pro day and getting to have that conversation with two guys who honestly, like, they're two of the greatest, DJ Shockley for what he did with Georgia football, Matt Ryan for what he did for Atlanta Falcons football. Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool just to even be in the vicinity of guys like that, just talking to them. And, ultimately he kind of tried to connect us a little bit. So when it worked out, looks like so. I mean, Shock, I'm not saying that Shock earns like a bit of Matt Ryan's portion, but not saying that.
Get some commission on it.
Right, exactly.
Definitely was cool, though, just getting a chance to, talk to both of them. I've been knowing Shock since the whole season and things like that. Actually, I think he interviewed me yesterday after I got drafted and things like that. It was pretty cool. But yeah, talking to Matt Ryan was crazy. And then when I got up here on a visit, just talking football with him, was pretty fun as well. Just to get a chance to have him understand my football IQ. And I just told him when I first came today, like, hey, like I told him and the head coach, I said, yeah, coach, y'all better not get tired of me because I'm staying in y'all offices. So that was something that was important for me too, just to be able to learn and grow overall as a player. And I have a lot of different pieces, within this building that I can utilize. So I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I think that stood out to me yesterday when we got a chance to talk to you on the kind of like media press conference call. And it just seems like you have such a passion for all aspects of this game, and that you kind of connected with this coaching staff and maybe some of the guys already who share a similar passion. Like, can you kind of speak to the sense that you've already gotten and why you connected to the coaches when you chatted with them?
Oh yeah, shoot. Like I said before, they just were so personable. They were being themselves. Very comfortable. I think Coach Stefanski had his feet kicked up when I was talking to him. He was real comfortable, but he was being honest and open about everything in the conversations. And then just their approach. And I know that they love football and I love football, so I think that's why another reason why we click. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to be the best version of myself and help my team win. And then even just the players as well. Like, I've been knowing a lot of the players. Like, I've been knowing Drake for some years now too. And he actually texted me before, like a long time ago, like, yeah, like, you're gonna be the one or whatever the case is. And he was like, I think we actually might get you, because I saw him like in California not too long ago, and he was like, yo, like, we might get you. And it's crazy.
He's like, we'll be there.
It's crazy how everything transpired and everything like that. And then him and Bijan called me after I got drafted, and was pretty cool. And they were just like, we think you'll fit the overall culture, not only just how you do things on the field, but like the way you carry yourself will fit real well with our program. So knowing that from those guys was pretty exciting.
Well, there is this, talking about like kind of fitting in, I saw this quote from you. It may have been at the Combine, I'm pretty sure, but you were talking about how you have been a pro since like middle school. Like, you feel like you've been a pro since middle school because your dad, as a athletic trainer and kind of what he was in your life, really helped you set the foundation of taking care of your body and putting a lot into it. I think you said, cryotherapy, laser therapy, protein shakes, all of that, like getting your body ready.
O2.
Yeah, how much, can you kind of tell us, like, go back in time and kind of being a young kid and what it meant to you at that time? Maybe not even understanding at that time what it would mean to you to now be going into a professional career, taking care of your body.
Oh, yeah, definitely meant a lot for sure. Just seeing the sacrifices, like, should we get up at 5 a.m., going to the gym at 6 every day. Like, that was my 7th grade year when we really me and my brother both told my dad, like, football is what we want to do. So he was like, I can show you everything you need to do. Like, I can lay it out for you. You just got to trust the plan, trust the process, and you got to grind and be consistent with everything that you do and be disciplined with it. So I just saw the sacrifices that, he's made, and even my mom as well, just taking us a lot of different places. Like, I went to Junior Olympics for track 5 times growing up. So I'm West Coast, but it's in Texas, it's in Kansas, North Carolina, like Florida. Those are far trips.
Right.
But they're allowing me to go there every time, and they're making an effort to show, like, we're putting you first. I just saw the sacrifices. So I think that's another reason why I go so hard and things like that. But yeah, on the athletic side, my dad definitely showed me, how to be a pro. Like you said, cryotherapy, laser therapy. I went up to the training room. I'm like, yo, y'all got a cryo chamber.
You're like, let's go.
They got the steam sauna, the regular. I'm like, okay, yeah, we got everything.
That red light in there.
But, for real, been doing everything. I actually asked him about that. He said they have one.
It's
in the weight room.
Yeah, it's in the weight room on the second floor.
I asked him, I said, what about red light, man? So I don't ever have to leave the building, and that's something that's important for me. Just having everything like in place, because that's something that I grew up doing. It was a lot of different places I had to go, but having everything in one spot is similar to Georgia. Like, Georgia was pretty much having a lot of those things as well, and I found a consistent routine that worked for me, and I plan on doing the same thing. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about that. Like, how much of going to Georgia was intentional? I mean, we obviously both went to Georgia. We have a lot of respect for the program that Kirby Smart has put together there, and just all the resources that you just mentioned. Did you look at that as hey, I'm kind of doing this as a little bit of a test run for the pros? I'm coming here. I'm going to have these resources at my disposal, but I'm also going to practice my mentality, my preparation, kind of like how much I can accomplish. Was that ever part of your kind of thought process?
Definitely. I think one thing I learned over the years is just you got to control what you can. You can't control, okay, how many plays am I going to get in the game? How many times I got to get the ball? Like, you can't control any of those things. I don't know what the play calls are going to be. Like, you can't control any of that. So if you harp on those things, then that's going to deteriorate your mindset and take you to different places that you shouldn't be. So I pretty much wanted to have the right place. Like, Coach Smart, ultimately, he created a crazy culture over there that is a winning culture. It's well respected as well, and I respect Coach Smart so much. And then just the way that, the resources around him, from the recovery, from the trainers, the nutrition, like there's so many different aspects that go into it that definitely helped my decision. So I think that's something that's really important, to be successful. And I think that was definitely something that I was focused on. I'm just controlling what I can and use the best resources around me to the best of my ability, and then let God control the rest. Because I didn't want to look back like, oh, I had this here, I should have did that, I should have. Nah, I'm not doing that again. So I just wanted to control everything I could, like the best as possible. Like every day after practice, I'll do 200 catches every single day, tennis ball circuit. Like if you were to go at Georgia and look at the film, like after practice, I'm there at the same spot every single day. But I didn't want to like have any regrets at the end of the day. So I was like, shoot, whatever happens, like I don't know how the season's gonna go, but I want to control everything I can in my power. Like, I can control what I do preparation wise, studying the plays, like watching film, preparing for this team. Like I didn't want to take for granted any of that. And then have regrets at the end of the day. So I think that's real important, just controlling what you can and then letting God control the rest. So
when do you feel like you landed on that mentality? Was that something that was always there through all of your travels and, going and becoming a junior gold medalist at USA track and field? Like, there's so many things that I feel like you've done athletically. At what point in your life do you feel like you gravitated towards that mentality that you were just speaking of?
I think I've always had the mentality overall, but I feel like I really tapped into it this last year, like 1,000%. Because there's days where you might feel like, oh, I should probably do this, but I'm not gonna do it today. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Like this whole year, I ain't have none of them days. Like I couldn't let myself like do that, and I felt like it worked out for me pretty solid this year. So
yeah, I'd say so.
I'm gonna plan on continuing to do that. But yeah, I think I always had that mindset. And some days, like I said, it kind of goes back to that consistency and discipline of how you approach things. If you want to be successful in whatever it is, you got to be consistent at it, and discipline. Like there's certain things you have to do in order to get what you want. So. Like there'd be late nights, I got to take like protein shakes and everything to just make sure I got fast metabolism. So like, I lose weight in my sleep. like I'm sleeping. Why am I losing?
I wish. How I wish I had that issue.
So I got to do the most to I got to just make sure I stay on my routine. And it'd be nights where I get home late. We're doing recovery. I'm watching film. I looked at the clock like, dang, it's 11:30. I'm headed back to the crib. I'm tired. I'm trying to go to sleep. I got to take my shake before I go to sleep.
Got to get that shake in.
Like it's just little stuff like that I found a discipline for, and it's really just like a self love. Like how much do you love yourself? Like and I thought about it like, okay, I have these goals or whatever I want to do like down the road. What will my future self be doing? What would that version be doing? Would he be like, I'm gonna do it tomorrow? And I was like, he would not be saying that.
Right,
So I put myself in that situation, like I'm already there. Yeah.
There's something to that, that I've heard, just like psychologically being
Definitely.
able to look at your current actions from the future vantage point is helpful. We got time, I think, for one more. You mentioned Drake and Bijan, right? You've already got a connection to them, and I can imagine like everybody is currently joining different teams all across the league, but to look at Atlanta's offense and what they have assembled is maybe kind of like one of the coolest opportunities. It's like picking a Madden team and you do random and you're like, oh, I got this team. Like they got these guys. That's really cool. It's like they got Drake, they got Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and now you, a playmaker kind of in your own right. What do you think you're bringing to this offense, and how are you looking to mesh with your new teammates?
Oh, yeah, I think I could bring a unique skill set, on all levels, whether it's short, intermediate, deep. Shoot, you want me to go dig out a safety, go block a linebacker, I'll go do it. I'm all about winning, and I love how Coach Smart, has Georgia, and everything's all about winning. It's a team sport, and somebody can have individual success, but, I don't like losing. So if I go for 100 and we lose, I'm still hot. I'd rather take the win than get 100 yards. So definitely just want to help the team overall, whatever it is, offense, special teams. But I think we can definitely be a dynamic offense with a lot of those guys. I mean, sure, they've already been successful in the league, and, I want to talk to them and figure out the things that they've done to, help my transition be smoother. So I'm excited for sure.
That's a great answer.
Love it.
Zachariah, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us, and welcome to the Atlanta Falcons.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.